Ukraine's mighty victory in Pokrovsk. Over the past day, December 29, 151 combat engagements took place along the front. The fiercest fighting between the armed forces of Ukraine and Russian forces occurred in the Pokrovsk and Huliaipole directions, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. That's the latest as of December 31st, 2025. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
I'm Alex. Join me with Aria in the latest podcast by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we're going to cover, well, we are diving deep into a stack of high-stakes military reports right out of the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
We've got our hands on the detailed summary from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. It covers the combat engagements from December 29, 2025.
And it doesn't just stop there. This material also updates the chilling cumulative loss figures that now stretch over 1,406 days of this war. Well, what's really fascinating here is how the report captures two completely different realities of the war almost at the same time. On one hand, you've got this staggering long-term cost. I mean, the cumulative personnel losses are now estimated to be crossing 1.2 million.
1.2 million.
And then on the other hand, you have the intense daily grind that one day, December 29th, saw 151 separate combat engagements. The sheer volume of firepower in this report it's almost unbelievable.
So our mission today is to take this huge amount of data, this daily picture, layered over the war's full timeline, and pull out the key insights for you. We're going to pinpoint exactly where the fighting is fiercest, what the current attacks actually look like, and what this unprecedented toll tells us about the war's direction as we head into 2026.
This is your shortcut to understanding what's really happening on the front lines.
Okay, let's start with that daily operational rhythm. We're looking at a snapshot of the front on December 29th, and right away it confirms an extremely high tempo, 151 combat engagements.
Yeah, and that's a relentless, just continuous level of pressure right across the entire line of contact. And that number, it's just ground combat.
Right, just troops on the ground.
If you look beyond that, the report details a massive volume of indirect fire, of air assets being used. The aggressor forces carried out 47 airstrikes in that single day, dropping 129 guided aerial bombs.
And those are the heavy hitters, right?
Yeah.
High-precision munitions aimed at hardened positions, logistics hubs, things deep behind the front.
Exactly. And the shelling on the ground is just immense. The report counted 3,651 shelling attacks. And get this, 62 of those used multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS.
For anyone listening who might not be familiar, those are the area denial weapons. They just saturate a huge area with explosives. This is not infantry fighting trench to trench. It's an environment completely saturated with fire.
And here's where the data really shows you the technological signature of this war, the drone war. The report states 5,287 kamikaze drones were used in strikes.
In a single 24-hour period.
At a single day. That figure is just astounding.
It is. But it raises a question for you, for the listener. If that number is so high, over 5,000 in one day, what does that tell us? Is it a sign of successful, overwhelming saturation? Or is it a sign that a huge number of these low-cost systems are being taken down by Ukrainian electronic warfare and air defenses?
I think it's probably a bit of both. It just underscores the sheer industrial scale you need just to keep that kind of offensive pressure up.
And the report gives us some geographic context for those heavier airstrikes, too. We're seeing targets near Bezdrik in the Sumy region, Pokrovsk in Dnipropetrovsk.
And also near Slovyansk and Mykolaiv in Donetsk, plus several places in Zaporizhia, including Orikhiv. It shows an effort to hit logistics and forward positions across multiple separate fronts at the same time. It's designed to force the defense forces to spread their assets thin.
All right, so let's move from that overall tempo to the specific geometry of the fight. The report is crystal clear about where the main pressure is being applied, the fiercest fighting. It's happening overwhelmingly in two specific directions. This is a very calculated focus of force.
Absolutely. The number one hotspot, without a doubt, was the Pokrovsk direction. This area saw the highest number of repelled assaults by the Ukrainian defense forces, a staggering 43 aggressor assault actions.
43 in 24 hours.
Yeah, that's nearly a third of all combat engagements across the entire front, all concentrated in this one sector.
And if you look at the map, at the settlements they're targeting there, Pankivka, Chervony Lyman, Myrnarod, Pokrovsk itself, Udakne, it paints a picture of a coordinated, really high-intensity push. So what's the strategic importance of Pokrovsk? Why so much focus there?
Pokrovsk is critical. A success there for the invaders would open up access to major railway lines and vital logistics hubs. So the fact that the defense forces repelled 43 assaults there, it shows they are fully aware of what's at stake. Holding that line requires relentless counter-battery fire, constant resupply. It's a massive effort.
Okay, so that's hotspot number one. The second major one was the Huliaipole direction, which is further south in Zaporizhia.
That's right. There, the defense forces repelled 25 enemy attacks in places like Solodki, Huliaipole, and Bilohirya. Now, Pokrovsk is clearly getting the bulk of the attention, but Huliaipole still represents a very high-stakes fight.
The fact that they're pushing hard in both places, it suggests a dual objective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Pressure the central Donetsk front, but also try to disrupt the southern defensive lines at the same time.
It does, and we can't forget the other areas, the secondary high-activity zones. They still represent serious, persistent pressure. The Kostiantynivka direction saw 17 attacks. The Oleksandrivka direction had 13.
Even the southern Slobozansky direction had 12 attacks repelled.
And that detail is so important because it shows the invading forces are just relentlessly testing the defenses across hundreds of kilometers. They're looking for any weak point, even while they throw their heaviest resources at Pokrovsk.
But, the contrast is also telling. The lack of activity in other sectors is vital. For instance, the Kramatorsk direction. The report says no offensive actions.
And up north, in the Volyn and Polishia directions, no signs of the formation of enemy offensive groupings.
So this confirms that despite the huge length of the front, resources are being heavily prioritized. The fight is intense, but it's also very focused and geographically specific.
Exactly.
So we've seen this firestorm on December 29th, defined by those drone swarms and the 43 assaults in Pokrovsk. But to really get the gravity of that daily fight, we have to zoom out. We have to look at the cumulative cost spanning 4,406 days up to December 30th, 2025.
And this is where the numbers become, well, truly sobering. We're looking at a scale of conflict that we haven't really seen since the major wars of the 20th century. The General Staff's report details a cumulative estimated loss of 1,206,910 personnel.
And it's critical for you to remember this figure from the Ukrainian General Staff is their high-end estimate of the aggressor's total personnel losses. That includes killed, wounded, captured, and missing.
That one number tells you so much about the human toll and the continuous nature of this attrition. And when you shift to the material costs, the numbers are just as hard to wrap your head around. The report says 11,477 tanks and 23,841 armored combat vehicles destroyed.
And think about the things that support them. The fire systems.
The losses there are immense. 35,582 MLRS systems. Just stop and think about that number for a second. 35,589 artillery systems.
That's the systematic neutralization of tens of thousands of individual cannons and howitzers. It suggests a deeply successful, long-term campaign of counter-battery fire by the defense forces.
A colossal challenge for any army to replace. Then there's air power. Maybe less decisive than some expected, but the losses are still substantial. 434 aircraft and 347 helicopters reported destroyed.
And they also report 28 boats or warships, and this is interesting, 2 submarines, which confirms the systematic degradation of naval power in the Black Sea.
And to tie back to what we said earlier, the sheer scale of the drone war is cemented right here. The cumulative count of destroyed UAVs is 96,932.
Almost 100,000.
We are rapidly approaching 100,000 small reconnaissance and attack drones shot down or disabled since 2022. I mean, that number just highlights the success of Ukraine's adaptive air defense and electronic warfare against a technology that has completely changed the battlefield.
And you can't forget the backbone of it all, logistics. The report notes 72,010 vehicles and fuel tanks lost. That constant drain on the ability to move troops, ammunition, and fuel is an absolutely critical part of long-term attrition.
Yeah, that's right. The sheer number of destroyed trucks tells you just how successful those deep strikes have been at making it almost impossible to efficiently resupply the front.
So while the cumulative numbers give us that big strategic context, the daily increment, that gives us the precise current tempo of attrition.
Exactly. We can see right now over that single day where the defense forces are having the greatest impact on the aggressor's capabilities.
So let's break down those increments from December 29th. Personnel losses were recorded at plus 12,220 in that single day.
And in terms of equipment, look at what was lost. It points directly to the current strategy. Plus 19 artillery systems, plus 400 operational tactical drones, and plus 119 motor vehicles and fuel tanks.
Even some of the big systems took a hit. plus 5 tanks and 4 armored combat vehicles destroyed that day.
Which raises an important analytical question. The fact that the defense forces are consistently taking out nearly 20 artillery systems and over 100 logistics vehicles a day? That suggests a very focused strategy.
It's not just about stopping infantry at the trench line.
No, not at all. It points toward a systematic effort to degrade the enemy's ability to even maintain that offensive pressure. It implies highly effective counter-battery fire and precision targeting of supply routes and rear areas.
That efficiency of attrition, especially in things like artillery and logistics, is the key to slowing down those 151 combat engagements we saw. By constantly hitting the fire support and the supply chain, the defense forces are systematically weakening the whole offensive machine.
It makes those big pushes, like the 43 in Pokrovsk, unsustainable in the long run. The report even notes that the defense forces are weakening the enemy's capabilities, even in its rear. And that high rate of drone attrition, 400 in one day, that means battlefield transparency for the attacking forces is severely degraded, making it even harder to coordinate these assaults.
So our deep dive today reveals a conflict that's really defined by this high-intensity, localized fighting. You have sectors like Pokrovsk absorbing dozens of assaults in a single day, supported by a record-setting use of drone technology.
And that daily grind is what's driving this unbelievable cumulative attrition rate, especially in personnel, artillery, and logistics. It really sets this war apart from most recent historical conflicts.
For you, the listener, these reports from the General Staff are a critical shortcut to understanding the reality on the ground. The focus on repelling dozens of assaults shows you the fierce, contested nature of the front.
While those cumulative numbers provide the chilling, long-term strategic context of a war that is just consuming vast amounts of material and manpower, the analysis shows the defense forces are effectively prioritizing targets that degrade the aggressor's ability to wage this war long-term.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. Considering that colossal cumulative loss of vehicles and fuel tanks, now standing at over 72,000, how will the long-term logistical strain reflected in these numbers force changes to troop deployments and operational doctrine in 2026?
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Arya, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.